Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Data Alchemy webinar series. It's great to have you all here for our session on self-service analytics at scale. This session focuses on empowering users without losing governance. If you're watching this, you probably know the double-edged sword of self-service data. On one hand, you want to reduce the backlog of your IT teams and empower your business users to find their own answers. But on the other hand, without the right guardrails, self service quickly turns into the Wild West. You end up with inconsistent practices between departments, low data literacy, and a fundamental lack of trust in data itself. So, today we are going to look at how to strike that perfect balance, giving your teams the autonomy they need while maintaining the oversight and data governance your enterprise requires. A quick logistical note before we begin. Because this is an on-demand session, we have proactively curated top questions we hear from the enterprise leaders regarding self-service adoption and AI. And we have saved time at the end of the presentation to dive into those specific questions. So be sure to stick around for that discussion. And now let's just move on. To guide us through this evolution from traditional BI to modern self-service, we have invited Dinesh. Welcome, Dinesh. Dinesh is an architect here at Systech within our enterprise architecture group with over 20 years of experience across US and India. He is someone who truly understands the entire data journey. He is certified in traditional BI stalwarts like Cognos and Informatica, as well as modern cutting-edge platforms like Salesforce, Data Cloud, and Agentforce. Because he's designed solutions for highly regulated industries like banking, financial services, and healthcare, he knows exactly how to scale analytics without sacrificing compliance. Dinesh, it's great to have you here. The floor is yours.
Yeah. Thanks, Vaishnavi, for the introduction. So let's go ahead with the presentation. As Vaishnavi mentioned, I'll walk you through the self-service analytics at scale and empowering users without losing governance. So in today's agenda, we are going to cover these topics where we look at what is self-service analytics and its evolution, like from the past to the future, and what are the different user personas that we have, and the benefits of self-service analytics. And also we look at some of the challenges and why the data governance matters. And then we'll move on to the best practices that we need to follow and how we can scale it across the organization. And finally, we will cover the future of self-service analytics, and as we are in the world of AI, like how AI impacts self-service analytics. So let's get started. So what is self-service analytics? Basically, it is a type of BI which empowers all the business users to run their own queries and generate reports instead of relying on IT. So basically, it allows the users to explore, analyze, and visualize data without depending on the technical teams. So basically, it encourages the data-driven culture in the organization by enabling the users to access and understand data. So it improves the data interaction and helps organization to democratize data access for informed decision making. So with the user-friendly tools and platforms, it lets users ask questions and get real-time insights, which will help them to uncover trends and patterns. So basically, it promises a win-win for both business users and the IT teams. So the business teams can get instant access to the insights that they need, while IT can shift their focus from routine report generation to higher value tasks. So let's look at some of the key features here. So when it comes to self-service analytics, it should have a user-friendly interface because it's going to be used by a non-technical user, basically the business user. So we should have a clean and easy to use interface so that they can navigate across the application. And it should have a drag and drop functionality so that they can easily create their reports. And they should have a real-time data access. And they should have access to the enterprise data. And in terms of collaboration and sharing, basically they'll be part of a particular department where once they create their own reports, they can share it with their fellow colleagues. And let's now talk about the evolution of self-service analytics. So in the olden days, we had the traditional BI where everything is done by the IT team and shared to the end users. And then came the self-service analytics where there are a portion of users who will have the powerful capability or they are kind of a data expert who can create their own reports. So they had this opportunity of certain tools to use the component within that for self-service analytics. So actually the BI space has transformed dramatically over the past few decades. So we came from traditional BI to self-service analytics to the current AI era, AI-driven self-service BI. So the businesses began to recognize the value of data-driven decision making, and that's how the self-service BI began to take shape. So let's look at some of the user personas. So basically we have two different set of user groups. One is about the casual users and then the power users. So casual users are someone who consume the data or they can do some exploration of the data. So that forms the majority of the user group. So they constitute around 80 to 90% of the user group. And the remaining 10% falls under this power users. So basically they are the data analysts and the data scientists. So data analysts are the one who are true data professionals. So they perform a deep analysis, connect to different data sources and build their own reports. And then comes the data scientists. So data scientists, they are the highly skilled self-service users who have strong data literacy and the proficiency. So they have access to, or they need access to diverse data sources so that they can do a well-rounded self-service analysis. So if you look at the benefits, so basically due to self-service analytics, we have the reduced dependency on the IT team. Since the power users are able to do their own analysis, create their own custom reports, they are not relying completely on IT. So that dependency has been reduced. And empowered business users means the business users have got the capability to analyze the data on their own. So they are empowered to make decisions quickly and easily. And then the reduced backlog for IT teams. So since they are able to do their own analysis and reports, now they don't need to have a request to IT team for each and everything that they're looking for, which means the backlog for IT team is reduced so that IT team can focus on the value-added task. So now let's look at some of the challenges as part of self-service analytics. So adopting self-service analytics means giving employees access to BI tools. So that comes with certain challenges. So one of them is the low-level data literacy. So if the self-service BI requires users to be data literate so that they can understand and interpret the data, and they can make accurate decisions and drive maximum value for the organization. So the low-level data literacy or incomplete understanding of data, it can erode organizations' competitiveness and damage its market credibility. So no organization wants to take such chances. So every employee with access to data should be knowledgeable about their domain data. Then the inconsistent practices between departments. So even with good intention, teams often do it alone. So they build their own reports, metrics, or logic. So without coordination, that independence turns into fragmentation and redundant work. So the next is the data governance. So why we have data governance under challenge? Because there could be a scenario where no data governance is there or a low data governance is there. So while data democracy reduces IT involvement, it can also increase the risk of inconsistent or untrusted data. So that's where data governance matters. So strong governance is needed to ensure ethical and accurate data use. So no matter how much an organization wants to provide democratized data access to the employees, it is essential to embed controls and manage the ethical and trusted use of data. So that's why the data governance matters. So basically, we need to have the users have the trust in the data. Otherwise, if the data is not good or if they don't have trust in data, they won't be able to make meaningful decisions. And the data literacy part we talked about. So everybody who is having access to the data, they should be like having good literacy about the data that they are using. And then to balance autonomy with oversight. So self-service doesn't mean just a hands-off. So users should be able to explore data independently, but IT will still play a critical role in terms of support and quality control and tool maintenance. So let's look at some of the best practices that we need to follow or implement while having the self-service analytics. So the first and foremost is the easy data accessibility and the UI. So users must have access to the enterprise-wide data for them to do the analysis. And then they should be provided with a user-friendly interface because they are going to be kind of a non-technical user or the business user. So they should be able to easily navigate in the application. And then we should have a defined, clear ownership. Means every data source or a data set or a dashboard should have a named named owner who is responsible for its accuracy and upkeeping. Then the collaboration. So when many users need access to the insights, it's important to share the self-service reports. So apart from the reports and dashboards shared with the IT teams, even when a self-service user or a power user create their own reports and dashboards, they can share it with their department users so that they don't result in creating their own reports, which could result in the overwhelming number of reports or the redundant reports. So that needs to be taken care of. And the data governance, what we talked earlier, needs to be taken care of as well. And on monitor and iterate, so we need to regularly keep track of the usage patterns and identify the training gaps. Also, we'll have to look at if there are any unused reports for a longer time period so that we can retire them. Or if there are any redundant reports, we can get rid of them. And finally, leveraging AI. So as we are in the world of AI, leveraging AI can immensely benefit self-service analytics because it makes it easier to work with the data. So it basically helps in finding the patterns and explore data and ask questions in a simple language. Now, once we have taken care of data governance and best practices, now how to scale it across the organization. So that starts with the certified data sources. So whatever data set is being published for the power users to use, so we need to make sure the organization has a library of pre-approved data set. So the teams can pull the data from the single version of truth. And then the use role-based permissions. So basically, we need to limit the users who can edit or who can export the data based on their roles. So the modern BI services offer those kind of customizable permissions. And then train the teams on data literacy. So as we talked earlier about the data literacy, so every power user needs to be trained on the data literacy part. And monitor the usage patterns. So we have to track what dashboards are accessed and by whom and how often it is accessed. Based on that, we can identify the high impact reports. And probably that can be published as a common report for a larger audience. And automate governance with metadata. So basically, we can use the tools to tag or classify and trace the data lineage for better compliance and auditing purposes. Okay, so let's look at the future of self-service analytics and how the AI is impacting it. So with the advancement of technology, generative AI is emerging as a new way to implement self-service analytics. So it empowers the users to analyze data without requiring any technical expertise. So the rise of LLMs has revolutionized how users interact with the information. So basically, we can get this automated insights from the AI. So that basically highlights the trends in the data and how the data changes and if there are any anomalies in the data. So all that can be obtained using the insights. And it actually reduces the effort to interpret the results, because if we have a report generated on our own, we have to manually interpret the results. But when it comes to AI-driven self-service analytics, AI automatically gives the interpretation of it. So there are certain tools where we can have predictive insights, which helps in understanding what may happen next or in the future, rather than what just happened. So basically, generative AI is transforming the landscape of self-service analytics. It empowers the users with natural language capability and making the data exploration more accessible and intuitive than ever before. So users can now easily ask questions in plain language to get their answers. Okay, so the key differences between traditional BI and AI-driven self-service analytics. Actually, I can say there is one more layer in between these two, because traditional BI is the BI that we had in the past and even now, and the AI-driven self-service analytics, it's evolving and it's going to be dominating in the future. But in the middle part of it, we had the actual self-service BI without AI. So there were certain traditional BI tools, for example, like IBM Cognos Analytics or MicroStrategy or Business Objects. So they had certain component within that. For example, if you take Cognos, we had a Query Studio, which is a component within Cognos that can be used by the power users for creating their own reports. So similar to that, every traditional BI had that self-service component in it. And nowadays, with the modern visualization tools, we have like Tableau, Power BI, or ClickView. So all of these are coming up with the AI capabilities. So now let's look at the difference between these two, traditional BI and AI-driven self-service analytics, in terms of the aspects listed here. Basically, if you look at the primary workflow, the traditional BI will have the pre-built dashboard and reports. But when it comes to AI-driven self-service analytics, it's all conversational and guided exploration. So in terms of user interaction, how the users interact in the traditional BI report. So basically, they'll click on certain part of the report. They can filter the data based on certain choices, and they can export the end data. When it comes to AI-driven self-service BI, they can ask the questions in natural language and get the answers there. And from the insight generation standpoint, the manual interpretation is needed by the users in traditional BI. Whereas in AI-driven self-service analytics, we get the automated insights from the AI, and along with it also explains like how and why it has come up with certain result. In terms of speed, the traditional BI has been slower because it involves report-driven cycles. But when it comes to AI, since it has the question-answer flow, like we can key in our questions and get the answers immediately. So that is faster. And in terms of analyst dependency, so for the traditional BI, it is very high or high. Because of the complex questions that needs to be answered, the IT team needs to create the reports or dashboards according to the need. But when it comes to AI-driven self-service analytics, it has a reduced dependency on the IT team for the routine analysis that they do. That is mainly because of the help of AI. And in terms of governance, we have the governance. It's often separate for the exploration in traditional BI. Whereas if you look at the AI-driven self-service analytics, it's already embedded into the self-service solution. Let's go with the demo. So I'm going to walk through the Wizard tool. Basically, it is an in-house product of Systech Solutions developed by our product team. And this demo is only to show how AI-driven self-service analytics work. Basically, how Wizard can be used to do the self-service analytics. It's not a complete tool about the demo. It's not a complete demo about the tool itself. So that's the disclaimer here. And if any of you are looking for a deep dive on the Wizard tool, maybe you can reach out to our marketing team and they can help you by arranging a separate demo on the whole product. So I'll just show how the self-service analytics part works in Wizard. So let me log into the tool. So within Wizard, we have a lot of different features and the options available. So what we are seeing here is I have already created a project with the role of an analyst. Basically, this analyst will fall under the data analyst user persona, which we have seen before. So there are two choices here. One is that I can start a new chat, or I can go to the chat history, which I have done before. Like I have had certain questions and answers. So in the interest of time, maybe we can go through the chat history, and also I can trigger certain questions here and show you how it works. So I'm going to the bottom and clicking on this continue chat. So basically, these are the questions that I have triggered and got the answers. So if we click on this continue chat, basically it will show all the previous history. So there's a data set called bakery store, which is what I have used. So I triggered a question like, which region in bakery store makes the most profit? So for that, the tool has returned this result set. So each region along with its profit. So if you look at the result set, the West region has the most profit. So that is explained in the plain English sentence. Also, apart from the tabular structure, we also have the visuals for the result set. So AI automatically generates it. Along with that, we also have the recommendations and the follow-up questions. So apart from the questions that we have, if we think like any of these questions, if you are interested in, we can simply copy paste this and put it into the chat so that we can get access for them. So these recommendations can be helpful if we want to take any further action on the insights provided. So let me try to trigger one question here. So basically, this is another question which I asked before. So is there any region in bakery store that makes loss? So the result set has been there is no data because none of the region has incurred any loss. And there was another question where I asked which region has the lowest overall profit and what factors contributed to it. So even though there are no region with loss, but within the region, there are certain products which incur the loss. That resulted in the lower profit for that specific region. So this has listed down all the products within that specific region and what is the profit. Basically, it's a loss. But when we sum up all the profit for that specific region, it is still in profit. For example, if you look at the central region, it is having a profit, but it is the lowest among the other regions. So what has resulted in the lowest profit? It's because of the loss in these product categories. So let's copy one of these questions suggested by the tool. And once we put that in the chat, within few seconds, we'll be able to obtain the result. So as we discussed before, it is going to come up with a tabular structure along with the visuals, and it will show the recommendations and the follow-up questions. So if you want to further have any chat on certain questions, if you want to get some answer, we can utilize that. So there we go. So this is the result set for this question. Are these same products loss leading in other regions? So basically, we have looked at the central region. Now this is going to show whether this product is having a loss in the other regions. For example, if you look at the regions like East or South, those products have a loss as well there. So This is the tabular structure result, and we have the visuals for it. Along with it, we can see the recommendations and the follow-up questions. So this is how the self-service analytics work with the help of AI, which is what we have done with the Wizard tool. Now, before the AI era, like if you look at the past, maybe 5 years back, the self-service had to be done with a tool like Cognos we discussed before, Cognos or MicroStrategy. So there we will have the drag and drop functionality where with the published data source, the power users can drag and drop the fields and create certain filters and get the answers. They have to manually interpret the data set and get their insights. So the future is going to be based on AI and AI-driven self-service analytics. So that's about the demo part. Hope you have got a glimpse of how the AI-driven self-service analytics work. So that's pretty much it. We are done with the session, and Vaishnavi, over to you. We can have the Q&A. Yeah.
No, thanks, Dinesh. I think that was a fantastic breakdown and also the sneak peek into the self-service environment on Wizard. I think that was a fantastic presentation. I think your point about using AI to talk to data while using the natural business terms is exactly where the industry is heading. And making predictive insights accessible to the non-technical users, that changes the entire dynamic of how decisions are made. So as promised, now let's dive into the Q&A. We selected 3 of the most pressing questions that we received from clients who are trying to scale these initiatives. So Dinesh, here's the first question. This is something that every enterprise struggles with when they're designing their operating model. Should self-service analytics be centralized or decentralized?
Okay. So most organizations take a hybrid approach. So while the central teams manage the data models and the governance part of it, the business users can perform their self-service analysis on the trusted and curated data sets. So basically, it's a hybrid format.
Yeah. No, what I was saying was that makes perfect sense. Centralize the rules and decentralize the access. Right. All right. Moving on to the second question, which touches on the AI capabilities you showed us. What data preparation is required before enabling AI-driven self-service analytics?
Okay, so on the data preparation part, basically the organizations need a clean, well-modeled data, and it should have consistent metric definitions, and the access control should be in place. So those are the preparations required, so that AI works best when we have the semantic layers, the metadata, and the lineage are already in place. So those are all the data preparation part that is required for AI-driven self-service analytics.
Okay, all right. So you just can't plug AI into messy data and expect magic. All right, that leads perfectly to the final question, which is something a lot of data teams are quietly worrying about. Can AI-powered self-service analytics replace data analysts entirely?
Not actually. So AI-powered self-service analytics reduces the analyst workload for sure. That is basically for the routine questions, but it does not replace the analyst entirely. So analysts will still play a key role in data modeling, in the governance, and doing the complex analysis, and also in validating the AI-generated insights. So it's not going to replace them entirely. They'll still exist.
All right. I think that's a great perspective to end on. AI elevates the team rather than replacing them. So Dinesh, thank you so much for your insights today. And to everyone watching, if you're ready to build trust in your data and empower your business users securely, we'd love to help. You can reach out to us at marketing@systechusa.com to learn more about our solutions. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Dinesh, for a fantastic presentation, and talk to you all soon. Until then, have a great day.
Thank you, Vaishnavi, and thank you everyone for attending. Thanks. Bye.